Review Commission for 2022. I want to thank the residents for attending in the audience and look forward to your comments and recommendations. So again, before I announce any of you, as I said, I just want to welcome you today to the meeting. What I'd like to do, so if individuals in the audience do not know the commission members or the individuals who are around, I'd like everyone to just introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Carrie McCarthy.
Hello, everyone. Des Bryant.
Trudy Bartley.
Nana Watson.
And we are the commission members, and if we can have staff and the city attorney introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Klein, Columbus City Attorney.
Hi, John Oswald, Columbus City Council.
Darlene Wilds, Deputy City Auditor.
Christina Ratliff, Mayor's Office.
We will get started in just a moment. What I would like to say is that for tonight, we are not going to abide by the 3-minute rule. Now, I'm not going to let it go 30 minutes. But we will not abide by the 3-minute rule to give the public the opportunity to make comments, and if they do have recommendations, for us to hear those as well. So John, before we get started with speakers, if you can give just a commission presentation of what we've done thus far.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Bartley. Let's see if we can cue this up here. All right. So just to give everyone a quick overview of the Commission's work thus far, proposals considered, actions taken, and outreach. So, let's see. Yeah. So just to start quick with the process, I went through this as well on the first meeting of the Commission. So the Commission was seated at the January 10th meeting of City Council. We held the organizational meeting on January the 28th. And then in February through July, we have met and will continue to meet to discuss potential charter amendments. So the Commission's recommendations, if any, that they would have per charter are due to City Council on July 10th, which is a Sunday, so it'll likely be a bit sooner. If Council chooses to accept any of the recommendations of the Commission, they must be placed by ordinance on Council's July 25th meeting agenda in order to make the November ballot, notwithstanding a special meeting called by Council during recess. And the general election would be November the 8th, 2022, on which any of the ballot issues that would happen to make it would be voted on. So the proposals, I'm going to give just a quick overview here. There have been 4 proposals so far that have been presented to the Commission. The first that I'm going to discuss is the initiative petition reforms. This is the effort to deter self-dealing in the charter and increase transparency. So what this would do basically is create new sections of the charter and amend some older ones. Adopting a similar reform as the state of Ohio did in 2015 in response to casino and marijuana issues would disallow monopolies and similar privileges in city code or charter. If an issue were to be brought up that was determined by the city attorney's office to violate this ban, council would have to place 2 issues on the ballot, assuming the process was followed. One to approve or disapprove allowing said violation, and one actually voting on the ordinance or charter amendment itself. So one of the ideas for this also is to increase transparency on the front end. If an initiative petition is determined to violate the new provision, any petition turned in must include the names and addresses of all those who would gain commercial benefit from the initiative and how much public money they would receive within the 3 years following the passage of that initiative. And it was increasing public buy-in for all initiated ordinances and charter amendments, as well as recall and referendum, by requiring a certain number of signatures be sought from at least 5 of the 9 new council districts in Columbus. The second proposal, open meetings. The idea here to increase flexibility for public bodies. So below is section 240 as the prime example of what to do with open meetings. Essentially, what this would do is replace references to general laws of the state with provided by ordinance of council. It would allow city council to determine by ordinance how a public meeting could be conducted, rules and regulations really. If votes could be taken virtually, for example, instead of in person, the methods by which council could ensure public access to the meeting, etc. It'd be incumbent upon council to ordain guidelines following potential enactment of this charter change, because left by itself, it would essentially do nothing. It could just revert to the general laws of the state if council took no action to codify rules and regulations. The next are acting mayor provisions, modernizing the language in an area that hadn't been touched in city charter ever. So the exact language of the proposal is still being determined. However, the gist of it as presented to the commission was this. Currently, only the directors of public service and safety or the council president can be named acting mayor in the case of absence or temporary inability to carry out the duties. The language would introduce the concept of the mayor's cabinet to the charter and allow additional flexibility for the mayor to determine who can be left as acting mayor in those circumstances. Likely to exclude council president from these due to potential concerns of a conflict of interest. The advantages for this would include increased flexibility in who can serve in this role, as well as increasing the number of options of who could serve should the other individuals be absent when needed. The reason the charter was the way it was is the only director level posts in charter are public service and safety. The rest of the mayor's appointees are named in the code. And then the final one was actually the first one that was presented, modernizing language in the city auditor sections. Amending several sections that deal with auditor duties and functions. Much of the language in these sections is still unchanged from the original charter. The proposed changes would allow for modern and future technology in the functions of the auditor. For example, allowing the form of a warrant or document entitling the holder to receive money could be determined by the auditor as prescribed by state law or council ordinance. One change aligns the function, for example, of the auditor with state law. Previously, they were the keeper of the records of the oaths of office for elected officials rather than the city clerk, who typically around the state and according to state law typically is where those documents are held. So that function would, according to the proposal, move to the city clerk and just modernizing functions such as that. This bit's a bit small, but I handed out in a few of the copies and have this available to folks. Just a bit more of a summarization by code section, exactly what these do in summary. So actions taken by the commission thus far on these proposals. Initiative petition reforms. The commission moved to consider these for inclusion in final recommendations at the April 20 meeting. For open meetings, commission, I still believe, will be considering some alternative language to be presented later, in addition to the current proposal at a future meeting. Acting mayor provisions, the commission will review the proposed language as soon as it's completed and presented. And for the auditor modernization changes, the commission moved to consider these for inclusion in the final recommendations as well at the March 23rd meeting. So outreach and public comment, this is just how folks are able to get in touch with staff or us and the commission. Commission meetings are broadcast live on CTV and live streamed on the city's YouTube and Facebook pages. The Commission website contains information regarding the schedule and pertinent materials from each meeting at the web address columbus.gov/charter review 2022. Residents can also submit public comment regarding the Commission at any time at the same address, /comments. We have the public comment hearing today, March the 10th. As of now, one following the Commission's final recommendations, so to be scheduled likely in the second week of July. This one will be a little different. It'll be a council hearing with some of the commissioners, or with commissioners present, so that the public can comment on what, if any, recommendations from the Commission should be placed on the November 8th, 2022 ballot. And I think I was brief. That's about it. Thank you very much, Chair Bartley and Commissioners.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. City Attorney Klein, do you have any comments you'd like to make? Okay, thank you. Well, let's begin with our public comment period. And I would like to call Mr. Bill Lyons to the podium. Mr. Lyons, when you come forward, you can give us your name, your address, and any affiliation or association that you have.
Okay, yes. Hi, good evening, members of the Commission, Charter Review Commission. My name is Bill Lyons. I live in 245 Walhalla Road in Columbus. I speak not just as an individual, but a member of the Columbus Community Bill of Rights organization, and I've also been involved in other organizations. So thank you for, since I understand there's only 5 of us speaking, so thank you for giving us the time to share our full remarks there. Besides teaching mathematics at Columbus State Community College, I've spent hundreds of hours collecting signatures for several citizen initiatives to improve the lives of Columbus residents. I have volunteered with several groups who have worked to promote the greater good. In this testimony, I will present 3 recommendations. I'll reserve others for the future, but for you to consider tonight. But first, I want to say a bit about the city charter and the process of reviewing it. The Columbus City Charter is our local constitution that, as stated on the Charter Review website, outlines the fundamental rights, powers, and responsibilities of the citizens and their elected municipal officials. Its purpose is only legitimate if it serves the interest of all Columbus residents and improves their lives and their communities. Further, its legitimacy depends on whether it provides for true democracy, justice, equity, health, safety, welfare, and accountability. It must ensure that the citizens control their government, not the other way around. Where it does not serve its legitimate purpose or can be improved to better serve its legitimate purpose, then it should be reformed. Regarding the charter review process so far, there have been 7 public hearings with no public input to this point, except if they just sent in some comments. The city officials have really had you as a captured audience for these meetings, presenting lengthy proposals, crafted, in my opinion, mostly in the favor of city officials. The process implicitly shows some disdain for the intelligence of the citizenry, as there are numerous individuals who know the charter, at least parts of it, extremely well. Many citizens and groups of Columbus know the charter perhaps even better than the city attorney's office, because they've had to live by certain sections of the charter, and in many cases have suffered the consequences. They could have presented to you right from the beginning recommendations for you to have considered the past several months, and perhaps offered an alternative point of view on the city officials' proposed changes instead of waiting 7 meetings later. So, moreover, there's only 2 planned public hearings out of 11. Another big problem that I see when I compare this to what happens at the state level is The city attorney's office not only offers proposed changes with justifications, but when the commission wants to draft things for consideration or modify them, like for instance the changing to the open meetings laws, it's also the city attorney's office who will draft those. So in my opinion, hardly an unbiased party in this important task. The Ohio General Assembly has the Legislative Services Commission to draft bills, and that commission does not advocate or suggest bills. So perhaps we need something like that for our city, just to keep that in mind. Another thing to be cognizant of is the justifications that have been proffered by the city attorney's office for some of the proposed changes. Sometimes the chief counsel for the city attorney has argued that a proposed change parallels state law, but other times home rule has been cited to diverge from state law. So these justifications are switched sometimes whenever they're advantageous to the city officials, often to the detriment of the public, I think. So our charter review process in general has been unbalanced and not truly democratic, and I think that's one thing that could be reformed perhaps in the city charter, but I don't have specific recommendations except the public to be involved from the beginning there. I say this, I'm not blaming you, commissioners, because as you were brought into this process, and it's been mostly arranged for you, but I hope that you are astutely aware of this as you are immersed in this process, and that you can make it better. You've been given a very important task. So with that in mind, it's incumbent on you to consider the public testimonies, and I'm very grateful that you're allowing us to present consider them very seriously, as their inputs into the process have been grossly out of balance with the inputs from city officials. Also, I heard Chair Bartley once you say that the commission's not a rubber stamp for proposals from the city officials, and I certainly hope that's the case. So below, I've submitted the paper to you shortly, a little while ago, for you to read it too, but I want to speak it. I want to say what it is. So I want to preface my recommendations with some background and some arguments. So my recommendations tonight are really regarding the initiative and referendum process. So as you know, the rights of initiative and referendum have been part of our state constitution since 1912 and the Columbus City Charter since 1914. These rights were won by a hard-fought struggle led by the Reverend Herbert Bigelow from Cincinnati to empower Ohioans to be co-legislators as a check and balance when elected officials are not acting in the public interest. So I encourage you to read more about this struggle. It was not easy. Ohio is only one of 23 states with these rights, but they're getting weakened year by year. Initiative, referendum, and recall represent true democracy of, by, and for the people. So when I first heard that a charter review commission was to take place this year, and that city officials were most concerned with making changes to the charter because of issue 7 that appeared on last November's ballot, I immediately thought to myself, how will this be used to further squash citizen initiative and referendum in Columbus? So my reason for feeling that way, you see, is Columbus has a history of being anti-citizen initiative, and I'll explain. Well, first of all, my suspicions were correct that not only language has been submitted to the committee that will make it more difficult for the so-called self-dealing measures to be approved by the electorate, which I'm not objecting to tonight, but an unnecessary obstacle has been added for all initiatives which would involve the new city council districts. Currently, as you know, for initiated ordinance, petitioners must collect valid signatures equal to 5% of the votes cast at last mayoral election, and for a charter amendment, collect 10%. So additionally now, for the ordinance, the city attorney's office wants to require their petitions bear signatures from at least 5 of the 9 city council districts, equal to half that percent, 2.5, and for a charter amendment, similarly require 5%. So there's been no problem cited with any initiative to warrant this extra hoop. The recommendation, entangling districts with the initiative process, is a solution in need of a problem. Such measures cause more harm than any perceived good and never work out well for the people. Moreover, city council districts were not approved by the electorate for this purpose. This additional requirement is unnecessary because anyone who has ever petitioned knows that signatures are efficiently collected at big events like festivals and where people come from all over the city. Sometimes they're not even from Columbus. So the argument that the proposed change is to prevent a proposal coming from only one part of Columbus is a bogus argument. And if such measure ever did and was not beneficial for the whole city or a part of the city that voters agreed needed an improvement, it would be defeated. I say trust the voters. You could check with the Franklin County Board of Elections to see any past initiatives came from only one part of the city. I think you'll find they never have and they never will, in my opinion. So, and also to collect from only one part of the city, you would have to go door to door, which is the most inefficient way to collect signatures. So, this would be onerous to the initiative process. Most people won't know their district. Trust me, when we collect signatures, a lot of people don't know they're even from Columbus. We asked, are you from a Columbus voter? They'll sign, and they're from Reynoldsburg or somewhere else there. So we know. So this means that petitioners, in addition to keeping track of all the signatures that they've collected, will have to look up every address and keep count of the signatures from each district. Also, this will likely increase the number of signatures needed to place an initiative on the ballot. Since I teach mathematics, let me illustrate just one example here. So, sorry you don't have the paper in front of you, but I'll try to explain it. Say we have petitions for a charter amendment that were turned in, and after validation, here were the percentage results of the valid signatures per district. Remember, for a charter amendment, you have to collect 10% citywide, and for this new proposal, 5% in 5 of the 9 districts. Okay, so let's say for districts 1 through 4, 18% of the voters who voted in that district, they've got valid signatures for. So way more than the 4 of them. And then let's say in districts 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, they collected 4.9%. 0.1% less than the requirement. And this would amount to citywide, they would collect 10.7% of the valid signatures of those who voted in the last election. So looking at these numbers, does it seem that this initiative came from only one part of the city? Would you not say that this has a strong representation from across the city? Well, under the recommendations from the city attorney's office, this initiative would be rejected from the ballot. The problem is when you start to include specific percentages from districts, which there is no basis for, you thwart democracy. Overall, that this initiative would have collected more signatures than the 10% required, 10.7, and it would be only 0.1% away from 5 out of the 9 districts, but it has collected them in every district by a substantial percentage, but it would be rejected. So also think of all the people who've signed petitions who wanted to get the opportunity to vote on that initiative, a great injustice. I could illustrate many other similar scenarios and ones for initiated ordinance, but I trust you get the point. So let me tell you about our local group that I've been involved with, Columbus Community Bill of Rights, of which I'm a co-organizer.
Mr. Lyons, I appreciate your comments, but can you get to your recommendations?
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you're a teacher.
Well, I wanted to
and
justify.
and you want us to understand.
Yes, right. Well, I wanted
If you don't
to,
mind.
okay, I just have 2 pages, actually 1.5 page left. Okay, so I'm trying to justify before the recommendations there. Sorry about that, but, okay, so our local group here, which is comprised of activists who petitioned for 4 initiatives to protect Columbus watershed from frack waste. Okay, so let me describe what's transpired with our last initiative, our 4th one. We were collecting for a charter amendment, and we had collected 9,000 signatures, and we were 9 months into our campaign, and in May 2020 happened. Well, we all know it was COVID, right? So what did we do? Well, we made the responsible decision to suspend our campaign. We appealed to the city council to allow us to continue the remaining 3 months of our campaign when it was deemed safe to collect signatures. I wrote to the city attorney and the city council pointing out in the city charter we have a section called emergency measures, which says that the council may vote to pass emergency measures, and it says that it's an ordinance or resolution for the immediate preservation of the public peace, prosperity, health, or safety. So I think what happened certainly qualified for that. Well, I didn't get any response, and so we sued. All right. So what happened then is during the deliberations there, the city attorney's office argued that we should have been out collecting signatures during the Black Lives Matter protests and the Reopen Ohio protests. So in other words, we should be willing to sacrifice our health and the public's for our democratic constitutional right of initiative. However, meetings for Columbus City Council, Franklin County Commissioners, even state officials were taking place online as they considered in-person public meetings unsafe. So one important thing to note is that this one-year requirement was only put in place in 2014. No other city in Ohio has a time limit, and I've checked the city charters for Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Youngstown, and so forth, and neither does the state. The state doesn't have a one-year requirement, okay? So there was no initiative cited at that time that presented a problem to warrant that restriction. So that's why I say another reason that the city has not been pro-citizen initiative. So another injustice is that there's no allowance. So I'm almost finished. So there's no allowance as there is for state initiative referendums to grant additional time to gather more signatures if signatures fall short. For state initiatives and referendum, the Ohio Constitution grants 10 additional days to collect signatures to remedy a deficit. So all of what I've documented above supports my assertion that Columbus has not been pro-citizen initiative, in fact, anti. So the city has, by all of this, has made it even more the case that big money interest, who have lots of money to pay petitioners, will get on the ballot, and grassroots citizen initiatives won't. So it's a prime opportunity for you to right that wrong. So here's my 3 recommendations. Okay, number 1, do not add any signature requirement for all the reasons I stated involving districts for initiative, referendum, and recall. Number 2, remove the 1-year time limit for initiative, referendum, and recall, especially in light of what we have to deal with now with COVID. And 3, when petitions are turned in and the number of valid signatures fall short, the city charter should grant additional time to gather more signatures. So just my last statement here. Now that COVID's part of our lives, we have all had to make a lot of adjustments. The city, county, and state officials have had to conduct virtual meetings for preservation of the public health. The same concerns, at least, should be given to the initiative process. Because of the unpredictability of COVID, and perhaps, God forbid, but another pandemic happens, it makes sense even more now to remove this one-year time limit on initiative and referendum and allow for additional time if signatures fall short, like the state does. So these recommendations are pro-democracy, so we are calling on you to help make the charter more beneficial and legitimate for all Columbus citizens and their communities. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of this most important process of revising our city charter for the better, and it's been nice seeing you rather than on my computer screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Next, we have Carolyn Harding. Ms. Harding, again, just state your name, address, and an affiliation or association.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Harding. My address is 156 North Roosevelt Avenue, Bexley, Ohio. And anything else you said?
Just your name, address, and any affiliation as Mr. Lyons has.
Affiliation? Yeah, I will cover that in my first paragraph. Good evening. I'm Carolyn Harding, a co-organizer with the Columbus Community Bill of Rights, producer, host of Grassroots Ohio Radio podcast, Bexley Ward 2 Central Committee member of the Franklin County Democratic Party, and candidate for Ohio State Rep, District to be determined. I come before you as a volunteer co-organizer of 4 separate Columbus Community Bill of Rights ballot initiatives to give citizens the legal right to say no to radioactive toxic oil and gas waste dumping, spreading, and injection in the Columbus metro watershed. As we speak, there are 13 active injection wells taking in hundreds of thousands of gallons of radioactive liquid frac waste with no holding tank containing this poison. Our municipal landfills are currently permitted to take unregulated frac waste drill cuttings, and many of our roads are spread with radioactive oil and gas waste, or brine, for ice and dust control. Back in 2004, oil and gas, along with interested lawmakers, state lawmakers, created HB 278, which took away local control regarding siting, drilling, and dumping of this toxic oil and gas extractive process and waste from Ohioans, and gave complete jurisdiction to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. State preemption has become the method de rigueur of big-moneyed corporate interests, aided by state legislators to hobble, handcuff, even hog-tie municipalities from enacting laws on minimum wage, common sense gun control, water withdrawal, traffic light cameras, plastic bag bans. What's next? Creating a citizen-led Columbus City Ordinance or Charter Amendment is the concerned citizen's strongest legal recourse to protect and improve our communities when state preemption law takes these rights away. The Columbus Community Bill of Rights, excuse me, when passed at the ballot, will give citizens the legal power to stop frac waste dumping, injecting, and spreading within the Columbus metro watershed, as over 25 communities depend on and purchase their drinking water from the city of Columbus. The Columbus City Council could have put this charter amendment on the ballot, but either out of fear of state preemption or an out of sight, out of mind denial that these radionuclides, neurotoxins, and carcinogens won't leak, migrate, or seep into our watershed. Collectively, the decisions of the City of Columbus, the State of Ohio, and the Ohio Supreme Court have chosen to side with or be silently complicit with big oil and gas interests, rather than stand up for and protect the inalienable rights for health, safety, and well-being of Central Ohio residents. What can you do as you amend the Charter of the City of Columbus? Commissioners, first of all, take away the one-year time limit. Like my friend Bill said, there's no other city that has that. Why do we have it, and what benefit does it really give other than to make it difficult for citizen-led ballot initiatives? None of us got paid, it was all volunteer. Number one, take away the one-year limit. Number two, add 10 days should a group come up short with signature numbers so they can get the required numbers. Number three, codify open, transparent meetings with the public, with cameras on at all times, including all public comments. I'm talking about city council too, not just initiative issues, but whenever public speakers come on at city council, the cameras go off. So I think it should be open. Number four, codify city council members must live in, run, and be elected within their city district or ward. We've gotten halfway there. We have wards now. Let's make sure that those wards are represented by people who actually live there. 5, clarify single subject matter explicitly. And this must pertain to city council's ordinances and charter amendments as well. And I didn't include, I have 2 more, but I'm going to bring those back at our next public hearing. Okay? As a reminder to all of us, this is what the Ohio Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 and 2 state. All men are, by nature, free and independent and have certain inalienable rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and seeking and obtaining happiness and safety. The second part is this: all political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal protection and benefit, and they have the right to alter, reform, or abolish the same whenever they may deem it necessary, and no special privileges or immunities shall ever be granted that may not be altered, revoked, or repealed by the General Assembly. Thank you for your hard work. We hold you with respect, and we request that you honor home rule and local self-governance and the citizens of Columbus as you continue to amend the Columbus Constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Our next speaker is Sandy, please, I may botch your name up. Bolsenius? Or Bolsenius?
Everybody loves my name.
Okay. If you can let us your name, your address, and any affiliation or group you're associated with.
Sure. My name is Sandy Bolsenius, and my address is 88 West Blake Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. And my affiliation is with lots of different local groups, but I'm just so many that I'm just coming here as myself, because in the end, everything I'm doing is for the local community. Okay, if this commission generally believes in the democratic process, every single one of its members would be dedicated to ensuring the viability of citizen initiatives in Columbus, Ohio. Instead, as evident in the proposals I've seen, this commission seems to be following the national trend of first vilifying the democratic efforts of the people and then impeding their efforts. We see this all around the country as local, state, and federal bodies are taking away the rights of we, the people, wherever we voice our concerns, particularly when challenging the influence of big money on our policies and new laws. For instance, consider the, I thought, inspiring grassroots Black Lives Matters rallies. How did governments respond? By wildly unconstitutional restrictions against public gatherings. Take the XL pipeline protest to protect Native American land and water. The gas and oil industry galvanized its minions of government officials, who they financed, by rushing through anti-demonstration bills in state legislatures, including in Ohio. What about women's desires to control our own bodies? Just 5 justices are about to overturn Roe versus Wade despite the opposition of the majority of Americans. Some democracy this commission and all of us are operating in today, but it matters. Voting rights, gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013, they had worked so well that they had to be gutted, and have been consistently under siege since. The Fair Districts campaign, here we go. The Fair Districts campaign, this is so sad to me. After Ohioans' successful decades-plus fight against gerrymandering, the corrupt practice persist. How is this possible? Ohio legislators called on selected laws and orders and ignored the real ones they were supposed to follow to blatantly sabotage the people's hard-fought rights, rights to fair districts. So powerful is big money interest over those of the people that these legislators did so right in front of the cameras and are somehow getting away with it. Citizen initiatives in Ohio, in Columbus, right here, just this group here, commission members are proposing rules to limit our rights in this matter. In each of the cases I mentioned, our governing bodies claim that they are not denying our rights. After all, we may still protest, attend fair district meetings, get abortions, and maybe, and as long as we find out before we even know we're pregnant, and join local initiatives. The reality is that these bodies' new regulations severely restrict already incredibly restricted rights to do these things. And these are rights we once had. But right now we're seeing onerous obstacles everywhere. Let's at least be honest in this room. And I really am talking directly to every single one of you on this commission. I don't know your background. I read your bios. I don't know your backgrounds. I don't know what brought you here. But I'm assuming you're really good people who believe in democracy. So I'm asking you, but we all get into this thing where big money is really involved. So I'm asking you to recognize that these obstacles are designed not to limit. So there's so much priority of these big companies that have come in. I'm talking about the regular people who are doing this. These laws are designed to discourage, block, and even criminalize the people from exercising our U.S. constitutional guarantees. And I am so sick of the double talk. More to the point, I'm frightened by it because of the role because of their role in dismantling, bit by bit, rule by rule, legislature by legislator, commission by commission, our democracy. It is fundamental to the survival of any democracy that every single one of us recognizes our responsibility to protect democracy. That's all of you guys, me, everybody behind me, everyone. We need to protect democracy in our as much as we can and to ensure that it may thrive now and for future generations. This is especially true for those of us who have personally benefited from the hard fought for rights. I am one of them. As the daughter of a labor union truck driver who earned a family wage to comfortably support my family, the product of a wonderful high school education where dedicated teachers sought to challenge us to think critically about everything. Without fear, this is what they did. I'm a graduate from a highly academic and affordable Ohio State University, a veteran with excellent VA health care that everyone should have, and a woman who had opportunities my foremothers did not. Most gratefully, I am a citizen of a nation that I treasured more than anything when I was growing up, and still do, because this nation preached, if not always reached, the ideals of a government for, of, and by the people. I suspect many, if not all of you, also benefited, I know you must have, to be in this position, from the advantages of a genuinely democratic policies. Your role as commission member of the review panel and the rules you adopt in this position will have enormous significance for many years to come. So does my role as a Columbus citizen working for genuine democracy, not a fake democracy full of doublespeak that disguises its pro-business, pro-banker, pro-developer interest. So I'm speaking to you, I'm a historian, I'm speaking to you because history is full of failed experiments like this, when the people tried to rule ourselves. I'm asking every single one of you, as you're going through this process, to think about how is this going to affect the local people and their right to voice their concerns. So I'm going to end with this. What can you do? Dedicate yourselves to, above all, real democracy. It's hard for a lot of us to know what that means in our little, in our areas. So I'm going to ask you to do this. I haven't gone into the details about your proposals and what we're wanting, because I know other people are doing this. I heard 2 of the speeches so far. But what I'm going to ask you to do, if you're really serious, if you're not serious about it, okay, fine. We are so used to that in Columbus and in Ohio and in this country, it's really not right. But if you really are interested, talk to the citizens that are here today, people who have experiences in local citizen initiatives, and you will find what even the laws that are in place now, how impossible it is for us to even get on the ballot. The current rules, you want to keep us off the ballot? Keep with the current rules. They're doing a fine job. But we keep at it, we keep working, not for ourselves. Hardly anybody in this room, if anybody, is making money from this. We're spending. We're the ones donating to our causes and our time. Do you know how long it takes to get 9,000, 18,000 signatures? How many hours to go out there in the cold, in the rain, wherever we can? Zach Klein, you've seen us at different places. We're always there. We're asking for a fighting chance, not for ourselves, for democracy. So please talk to us if you really want to know what's going on. And if you don't, okay, we'll see what rules you come up with, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board. But we'd rather be fighting for the good of the citizens of Columbus, not always in the courts. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be via WebEx, and that will be Quai Barnes.
Hello.
Ms.
Hello.
Ms. Barnes,
I'm here.
if you can just state your name, address, and any affiliation or organization that you're associated with.
Yes, my name is Quay Barnes, and I'm the chair of the Mideast Area Commission here in Columbus, Ohio. My address is 1654 Barnett Road.
Thank you.
Okay. Dear Commission, I'm here tonight to briefly speak in favor of allowing the charter to be amended so that the city can allow virtual or hybrid meetings for commissions. The Mideast Area Commission started in 2006 as the Mideast Area Community Collaborative. We were 8 and then expanded to 15 neighborhood organizations who together work through such problems as crime, drugs, and illegal businesses. Resident involvement was essential, recognizing the concerns and also seeking solutions. In 2019, we became a commission. We were, and I think we are, one of the few where zoning is just a part of what we handle. We are still dealing with crime, but now we also have traffic, housing issues, and the need for youth involvement. This takes a team. Being virtual has allowed us to invite folks with knowledge and resources to attend from their homes, their offices, their cars, and share their information on our screens. Residents can view from their work, their homes, and their cars. Some are immune compromised and some cannot drive at night. 2 of our commissioners have health challenges, yet they were still able to attend and participate. However, it's not clear whether or not their attendance counted toward a quorum or their votes counted. That never has really been clear to us. But above all that, though, we were having to meet in person when the COVID numbers for the state were in the thousands. And in order to do that, to even have a meeting, one of us had to be on site and the rest of us virtual in order to have a meeting, and we couldn't vote and we could have no quorum. That was ridiculous. And so we're asking you, if you would, to amend the city charter to allow for you to decide when and if commission meetings will be virtual or hybrid. The last thing I want to say is it is not an easy thing to put on a hybrid meeting. It's time consuming and glitches happen. But for the 15 to 20 to 30 people that watch, and for the more who look at the recordings later, the effort is what we need. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. And our final speaker for tonight is Joe Motil. Mr. Motil, as you come up, name, address, and any affiliation or association or organization that you're with.
Okay, thank you. Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road, Columbus, Ohio. Chairwoman Bartley, members of the commission, City Attorney Klein. First of all, I want to say that the reluctance of Mr. Oswalt and city officials in general to exclude public comment from all these meetings up to this point is a continuation of decades of our city elected officials and their staff spending time and taxpayer dollars on trying to figure out more ways on how to silence the voices of citizens so that they can more easily maintain control and power that they have over elections and restricting citizens' rights to engage in enacting city policy. City Hall Democrats are outright hypocrites while they complain about our Republican state legislature restricting women's rights with abortion laws, don't say gay bills, critical race theory, and gerrymandering, yet City Hall Democrats are doing the exact same thing by restricting citizens' rights. Whether it's pointless campaign finance reform, a city council appointment process that's a sham, handing out tax abatements for market rate housing, and the creation of council districts that allows for an entire city electorate to vote for every district, which is really nothing more than an extension of our current at-large city council. And we all know that. City council further restricts public input by only allowing citizens to speak on 2 agenda items at city council meetings and then turns off the cameras during the public comment portion of their meetings so viewers cannot listen to any possible opposing viewpoints and criticism that they may receive from citizens. Engaged citizens like myself who understand the politics of City Hall knew immediately that Mayor Ginther and others would use the Green Energy Ballot Initiative as an excuse to further restrict the constitutional rights of Columbus citizens. Issue 7 was defeated by an 87% to 13% vote. Columbus voters are obviously smart enough to sniff out a bad deal when they see one, just like the numerous proposed sales tax increases for sports arenas and a downtown zoo over the last few decades. We don't need charter amendments that are being falsely designed to stop ballot initiatives like Issue 7 from being placed on the ballot, when in fact, the city's proposal is truly about deterring any and all initiatives from being placed on the ballot. The city wants to continue to strip the rights of citizens to participate in a democracy. And why didn't Mr. Oswald seek the advice of independent experts in the field of voting rights when considering the impact that changes in ballot initiatives would have? I'm sure somebody like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund would have gladly provided input on this matter. Allowing City Council to determine open meeting requirements is like saying we want to legally conduct business behind closed doors without the fear of being taken to court for violating sunshine laws, as they were recently by the Little Turtle Civic Association regarding the unethical and alleged corrupt activities that took place for the Little Turtle roadway project. Elected officials need to be in person for all public meetings. Officials should have to face citizens in person, not via a webcam, which makes uncomfortable confrontations easier to deal with. A friend of mine said, quote, "Corruption thrives in darkness and opacity." I couldn't agree more. And in reference to a comment that was made by the previous speaker, if in fact such a charter change is made, I would certainly hope that all meetings must be recorded as a requirement for that. In closing, there should be a 10-day extension on signature gathering for ballot initiatives, just as the state has. Eliminate the one-year requirement on gathering signatures for ballot initiatives. Eliminate the provision to obtain signatures from 5 of the 9 districts. As was stated earlier, people aren't even going to know what districts they live in, and it places a huge burden on people collecting signatures. Under Section 15.1 of the Council, members of the Citizens Commission on Elected Officials' Compensation shall not be former public elected officials or employees of the city or related to any public elected official or employee of the city. Such members of that commission should be elected by the city electorate. I also recommend that Chapter 2321, Section 54C, legislative agents, read that no former city or state elected official or former city employee shall be permitted to serve as a legislative agent or lobbyist. Include the following to Section 107.02 of the campaign finance laws. Prohibit the solicitation or acceptance of campaign contributions from persons having a financial interest in city business while such business is pending before City Council. And finally, I think there should be a limit in-kind contributions from public officials to $10,000 per calendar year. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Motil. Well, that is our list of our speakers for tonight. Again, thank you, each of you, for presenting your recommendations, your comments on the issues that we have discussed to date and those that we will be discussing in the future as well. What I am going to recommend to Mr. Oswald is that we have another public meeting prior to the recommendations going to City Council so you can see what we've done prior to moving forward, and then having another one after those recommendations with Council, having that public hearing. I think that gives more transparency to the process, which is what I'm hearing is one of the driving forces of you all as individuals and within the organizations that you represent. So again, thank you for your comments. We will review it. As you know, the recommendations that we've made thus far can be amended. We will be reviewing this information again, particularly on those things that we have said will move forward, to see if there will be any amendments, particularly after what we have heard tonight. And again, thank you for coming and appreciate you loving your city. City Council, you used to be a City Council president, but not anymore. City Attorney Klein, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Chair Bartley and members of the commission, first let me thank you for your service. This is my first time being in person at this meeting. Laura Baker Morrish, as you know, who regularly staffs is out of the country. So it's my honor to be here with other concerned citizens that have raised other proposals for this body to consider. And I think that's what's important as this commission moves forward, is that everything that has been proposed is just that. It's a proposal. I will say, in the aftermath of the Issue 7 campaign, I pledged as the city attorney to work with my fellow elected officials and city hall staff to figure out a way to balance access to the ballot, which we've heard the importance of, and I wholeheartedly endorse and support, against initiative petitions that fleece taxpayers out of millions of dollars into someone's personal own pocket, which is what the heart of Issue 7 was. I think it was a concern for me as the city attorney and also as a citizen of the city of Columbus, but also a concern of many residents of the city of Columbus. In that vein, me and my team, in consulting with others, came up with the proposals that are before this commission. It's essentially in three tranches, if you will. It's the first is mirroring the state of Ohio in the way that they deal with monopolies and having the two-question analysis. The second tranche is reflective of the state of Ohio and equal representation of the vote for the initiative petition. And then the third is extra disclosure for those that are seeking to do initiative petitions, to say exactly how much money that you're going to make off the taxpayers. Those three proposals are before this body for consideration. And the beauty of being a home rule city is that we're able to look for guidance of other cities or the state of Ohio, or our own creative ideas that allow us the flexibility within certain parameters prescribed by law to do what we think is best for the citizens, and put it forth in the case of a charter change to the citizens for a vote. I know there has been some criticism of the one-year timeline in collecting signatures. There was some criticism about the new district ward set up with city council. We have to remember that that was put forth to the citizens, and the citizens of the city of Columbus thought that was a good idea. That was voted upon by the citizens of the city of Columbus, and the citizens of the city of Columbus voted in affirmative to do those things. And just in the instance we have today, whatever this commission and ultimately city council puts forth, the citizens of the city of Columbus will be able to weigh in on those as well. And I think that's the beauty of us being able to have volunteer-led commissions like this that review the charter, to hear citizen impact, citizen testimony impact from those that are concerned, that are out in the trenches. Ms. Bolsenius is right. I've seen many of the folks out gathering various petitions and my interactions with the community, and that's a good thing. But I do think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there was an individual or group of individuals at one point that tried to fleece the taxpayers of the city out of millions of dollars. And that we have to be cautious in the way that is done moving forward. And then the proposals that we have put forward, I think, do address those. But the beauty of it is like a buffet, that this commission can pick and choose which proposal that they wish to use, or they can accept proposals from the public of how they can go further to address the city charter changes. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I will close by just making a reference that it was interesting to see Ms. Quay Barnes, who is an avid and prolific community activist over on the east side. If she's still listening, hello, Ms. Barnes. But she joined us via WebEx. And having that flexibility was what the heart of the proposed change for open meetings. It gives the flexibility for individuals to be able to join via WebEx. I appreciate the concerns that the citizens have raised, but I think in today's modern times that we need to have the flexibility to at least allow the hybrid presence of individuals who are shut-ins or unable to make meetings to still be able to participate in the democratic process. And under current city charter, under the current laws of the city charter, that is prohibited as it relates to boards and commissions because it has to mirror state law. So as long as state law and the way the legislature sets their own open meetings laws, we have to follow that. And so that actually is an idea that came to us as we lived the pandemic all together, is like, how are these boards and commissions going to operate if we can't allow them to do WebEx? How are the area commissions going to hear the testimony of whatever development projects are going on in their community so they can have more affordable housing? All those had to come to a standstill until the legislature allowed us to have hybrid meetings or virtual meetings at the time that then transitioned to hybrid. Unless we make that fix or and give the voters the opportunity to weigh that, we'll be at the succumb to the whims of the legislature and whether we as a city would be able to allow that same sort of hybrid or virtual presence.
Thank you, City Attorney Klein. Any comments from any of the other commission members? Okay, hearing none. This meeting is adjourned, and thank you.